Trick or treat!
Happy Halloween! And at InsaneRadioDeals.com and VTRN, we don't have any tricks up our sleeves, but we do have plenty of treats for you. 31% off of list price items for all food items, from 801 Raw Bar to Oliver's on Rivermont, Ballad Brewing to Downtown Cairo, Caribbean Jerk Pot, JD's Cafe, and the Yard on 5th Street. 31% off all food items at InsaneRadioDeals.com now through November 3rd.
You're stepping into the fast lane on the VTRN Sports app, 93.3 FM and 1320 AM Lynchburg, or by asking Alexa or Google Home, open VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Now, take the fast lane through the topics that matter across the Commonwealth. This is the Fast Lane with Ed Lane.
Well, the Liberty Flames, where was that all season? If you're a Flames fan wondering, I think it's a very reasonable question to ask. Where in the world had that been from the Liberty Flames? There are a couple of parts to this. Part of it is just the fact that they had 17 days off, and they went through the awkward situation last year with the unfortunate cancellation of the Appalachian State game going down to Boone because of Hurricane Helene, and that wiped that out. But they had a couple of bye weeks last year, and you could argue nothing was going to save that team from underperforming relative to their expectations in terms of players being bought in. This year, we heard all offseason the players were bought in, but I mean, let's not get it twisted here. I was not in the Luke Barnett camp of like wanting to liquidate the entire coaching staff, get rid of everything, bring an entire new roster. Let's just go drastic changes at LU like we are LSU. Like, I am not in that camp. But, much like you, Luke, I think it's reasonable to say there was a lot of doubt, questions, concerns that this year's Liberty team was going to continue to regress. And they still might. Their defense was not spectacular against Delaware. It could have been better, but it could have been worse. But the offense, that's the version you're like, okay, this is back to where you want. Now, first of all, biggest caveat. Delaware's defensive front is one of the smallest ones. I don't know if, were you at the game, Luke?
I was not, but I was watching it, and
could
it
you
didn't look
tell,
too impressive, that's for sure.
Could you tell on television? Because again, I'm at the stadium, looking from the sky cam view almost, which is where we are in the press box, and down on the field for different shots. This looked like the smallest defensive line that I had seen Liberty play. Like, they mauled them up front. Not just Evan Dickens, 200-plus yards rushing, 4 touchdowns, got his LeBron James on.
Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4.
Well, just 4. He wanted more than 4, but at last they were stuck at 4. But Liberty moved them out of the way. And there's an into-the-weeds aspect on that. There's some others, but did you see this type of performance coming, Luke?
I didn't. I honestly thought Delaware was going to get this one. And even the student section, you saw how empty that side of the stadium was. I think a lot of fans have kind of like lost the interest just from, I mean, we went 5 weeks into the season with one FCS win. So I think a lot of fans have kind of lost interest, even if they do win 60-30. At the end of the day, it is still Delaware.
Well, it was 2 FCS wins, or FBS wins, 1 FCS win entering that game on Saturday. It's interesting. I don't dispute this version. Sometimes I scratch my head at attendance figures at Williams Stadium. Not to the extent, if you're watching it, the VTRN Sports and Fastlane Ed Lane streams, where I'm about to do for Scott Stadium at Virginia. Liberty, it's 1 scratch. Scott Stadium, it's like 2 scratches, maybe in the back of the head and everywhere else. Like, we're scratching a bunch of times trying to figure out where they get these numbers. We're not alone. Jerry Ratcliffe, who will be the second guest in covering the Commonwealth 525-ish today, also is in that camp. But for Liberty, it actually looked like the rest of the stands were pretty well packed. Like, you're just citizens of the Lynchburg area or Liberty fans who travel from out of town were there. But I'm with you. I get the sentiment, and I've heard this from other people. Our babysitter is a Liberty University student. We actually had a couple of babysitters of ours who are Liberty University students, but our first longest tenured one is in that camp. And all of them are almost turned the page to basketball season. I still think there's stuff to be gained from football season. Saturday, I think, verifies that for Liberty. Part of it's also the fact that the rest of their slate is against Conference USA. They're not playing a JMU team whose coach I am really convinced is not going to be back in Harrisonburg next year. Bob Chesney has got next destination written all over him. More openings that have popped up. His agent is Jimmy Sexton. He's the Scott Boras of college football, if you're unfamiliar. Liberty fans remember him from Hugh Freeze, JMU getting their introduction. But I don't know. Do you disagree with that comment, by the way, about JMU's Bob Chesney?
No, I'm just saying whoever is hiring those coaches at JMU, they need a raise. Whoever's hiring the coaches.
I mean, heck, if you're Virginia Tech and you need an athletic director, maybe look at that. I know Matt Rohn is the outgoing athletic director from JMU and has been instrumental in a lot of those, and he's retired. And, a part of the retirement idea is just not wanting to deal with the modern landscape of college athletics or just wanting to reassess where you are in terms of your life and family and work balance priorities. And those are all natural sentiments to feel. But for Liberty, looking at what they've encountered, that loss to JMU, understandable. ODU, better team. They just got bowl eligible over the weekend as well. They were a better team than the Flames were. Jacksonville State, I think Liberty could potentially avenge that particular loss. So you look at a couple of these for Liberty and you're like, okay, I understand it. The Bowling Green one's probably going to be the one where you go, that's not really aging all that well, considering the skid that the Falcons of Bowling Green are on and Eddie George just making coaching staff changes today. But for Liberty, you look at all that and you're like, all right, maybe they could get it together, maybe they couldn't. But 59 points, that's really impressive. And there are a couple of things for Liberty. First of all, more than anything, I think you've got to tip your cap to the fact that the Flames themselves managed to keep things together when they were 1-4 a couple of weeks ago. And even with the 2 wins entering the bye week, the UTEP and the New Mexico State wins in midweek on the mountain, kind of, because the UTEP game was away. But in the midweek Conference USA games, Liberty kept it together. And Jamie Chadwell touched on that after the win on Saturday and how they avoided splintering.
One, I think we've got a really good locker room. We got a council, a group of people that care about the team. They've kept, if there's any chance of splintering or any chance of doubting, they've kept everybody together. And so I think the credit goes to the locker room and our leaders and our seniors, the guys that want to finish this off.
No doubt. It absolutely has to go to that. You've got to be in a spot where you really understand where you are and you've reset your priorities in the locker room. And part of this, and I guess he had to show out for his appearance on the A Sea of Red podcast on Saturday, but the tight end Jacob Jenkins, who spoke afterwards, mentioned that he knew this team had this game in them somewhere.
Yeah, I think the offense since fall camp, we know we have talent in our room. So I think it was just trusting the process, like Coach Chadwell was talking about, just trusting our coaches, trusting our game plan, and eventually we knew this thing was going to click. And tonight it clicked, and it was good to see a lot of us, just try and stay the course, and that's what we're preaching in the locker room, especially in the offense side, just trust it. So finally you get to see that fruit of trusting it come into play, and 59 points is a good game, and everybody's excited and fired up about it.
I get that, the trust part, but that's the thing that players had been saying that even through 1-4, 2-4, and even after the win against New Mexico State. And those 2 wins against UTEP and New Mexico State left me unconvinced in a lot of ways. It seemed like they did for you as well, Luke. And there is still, I think, a limit on what Liberty realistically is going to do this year. Even if they win Conference USA, I don't think that's as likely as if I'm Liberty, get to bowl eligibility, get 2 more wins, get the extra weeks of practice that come from whatever bowl destination is on your radar, and then use that to build toward next year. I know they're thinking differently, but from the outside perspective, being a realist about it, that's the case. But having the right mindset, I will say this, it looked like it paid off Saturday because that looked the freshest that offense had looked, and it looked the most gel that they had throughout the entire season.
I think after the start you had to the season for Liberty, you make a bowl, it's a win this season. I think that's what you settle for.
I think settling is relative for what expectations were then where it was looking at 1-4. Getting to a bowl game, it's settling. But for Liberty, you saw a lot of that. Now, the main headline is the fact that Jamie Chadwell mentioned it, the players, Jacob Jenkins, the tight end, reiterated the mindset they had of just trusting in their process, but how to avoid splintering. A lot of this is also, from a Liberty perspective, doing an honest, brutally honest self-assessment during that 17-week layoff.
I would give the credit to some coaches as well, or strength coaches in general. There's not been a panic. You know, and on social media, everybody wants everybody fired and all that stuff, right? And so, but there's not been a panic. We all believe in what we're doing. The players believe in the coaches believe in the players. And so there's not been like a message change. It's not, you don't have these wholesale changes. We know we are able to point out some things that, hey, we're not doing well. And our players have taken that and saying, hey, we know we can get better, and they're running with that. But they also know that hey, if they can continue to stay together, good things can happen.
Jamie Chadwell, head coach, Liberty, taking a shot at our own Luke Barnett about wanting everybody fired on social media. He knew you were going to be producing the show today, Luke. He knew you were going to be co-hosting. So
Felt personal.
You know, I mean, it kind of did. You know, when I listened to that, I'm sitting there, you know, kind of chuckling. Ty was sitting to my left in the media room, kind of looking at each other, getting a kind of a laugh in. We knew where this was directed because it wasn't Hot Take Ty. He's not really a hot take guy, as you'll find out listening to the morning warm up with Trey Lyle, 7 to 8 a.m. He was taking a shot at Luke, but no, it's the assessment. It's not panicking, which is not something fans want to hear, but it's also understanding where you are. And, you know, again, avoiding the splintering. It's the combination of self-assessments, schematic upgrades, and this.
Most of the credit goes to the guys in the locker room, are seniors. Some of the guys you'll talk to tonight, Mo and Jacob, of just keeping the guys like, hey, let's keep believing, keep doing what we need to do, and eventually it'll turn. Right, eventually turn again. We're 4-4 or 4 to go, and so it's a championship each week, and we got to approach it that way.
You know, I get a little eye roll when I hear that it's a championship each week. That screams coach speak for me. But for Liberty, it's more about you want a level of getting hyped up, and you know it's their thing, it's their motivational tactic. You know, by and large, it's worked. I'll give them credit; it's worked well this season. But you know, you do have to tip your cap to an extent to the players because they looked like they were balled in. That offensive line looked as consistent as we'd seen from the Flames. Ethan Vasco looked as comfortable as he has looked all season long, and all of that tied up and tied together to give Liberty, I wouldn't call it a fully cathartic 59-30 victory because the defense hit some lulls in there, particularly in the third quarter where all of a sudden it was a 4-touchdown game, got trimmed to 2 touchdowns. And Liberty, in spite of that, never panicked. They kept their foot on the gas, which was such a crucial thing for the Flames. They hit a lull. They've got to get that cleaned up. Defensively, you know, Delaware did move the ball fairly well in a number of spots and use that throwing to set up the running game. But Liberty showed what they could do when you can tee off on another team, when you can actually plug some holes and run defense, and voila, there's, I think, more to clean up defensively, but this is where Liberty fans can go. If this was the first or second game of the year, Liberty fans would be like, all right, we really see a lot of potential. That's where the disconcerting part is, that it is so late in the season for the Flames. Meanwhile, getting late early for the Washington Commanders, which is where we begin.
It's time for Fast Five at 5-ish. 5-ish minutes on 5 relevant topics done around 5 p.m.-ish. Ish, because our counting skills are kinda ish. Let's start with number 5.
Down 38-7 in the middle of the fourth quarter against the Seattle Seahawks last night. As you were listening on the VTRN Sports app, I'm not going to play the soundbite from our coverage of Sunday Night Football on VTRN Sports, your home for the best play-by-play, including Virginia Tech men's basketball, followed by Monday Night Football here this evening. Season debut for Virginia Tech men's basketball. Chris Coleman of TextLiveline.com. We'll touch on that 5:40-ish today in the back half of the first part of Covering the Combine. Jaden Daniels suffers a dislocated left elbow. Could potentially be season-ending. There is still some murkiness to this. I am not one to buy into the JD5 is like RG3 comparisons that are out there. Jaden Daniels has a level of maturity beyond his years that it sure did not seem like RG3 and his dad ever really had in Washington. There's also fault as you might, the front office of Adam Peters and the owner Josh Harris. Nothing can be worse than the prior people in charge. I did not say leaders. People in charge for the Commanders. But this is the ultimate spot, and I think the ultimate indicator for Washington. The fact that Daniels is in the game isn't the bothersome thing. It's more this. You seem to disagree, Luke, by the way. You think he should have been out of the game at that juncture. 38-7.
I mean, with the injuries and he's just so flimsy, it seems like I don't know if I'm Dan Quinn.
So it's the play calling that I have more of an issue with in that situation from the Commanders. And you can put a lot of that on Cliff Kingsbury, who really looks like they found out his tendencies this year, and it's impacted Washington, not to mention a porous defense. But I don't compare Jaden Daniels to RG3, but even more so for the Commanders, given how this season is unraveled, I slow play this if I'm Washington. Daniels' health is the one thing you need to ensure. You're realizing that you're probably going to have to make more changes this offseason. Some of the investments with age that you went in on, I'd still say the jury's out on a guy like Laramie Tunsil at left tackle. But the injuries have crept up to guys like Marshawn Lattimore, more on that in a moment. Debo Samuel has his fair share of them. We touched on it with Terry McLaurin last week and his hamstring injury that kept him out of this game, wondering whether the holdout played a role in that. For the Commanders, these are all things which make me say you have got to slow play this with Jaden Daniels. Meanwhile, the other injury,
Number 4.
Marshawn Lattimore, the cornerback, out for the year with a torn ACL, one of a number of players to have suffered that the last couple of weeks. It was a feared outcome after last night's game. Lattimore was not having a banner year for the Commanders, but this still puts them in an even more compromised situation, just given how atrocious that pass defense has been. Meanwhile,
Number 3.
Missouri State knocked off top-seeded Western Kentucky 2-0 in the CUSA Women's Soccer Tournament at Liberty. It does not guarantee the Lady Flames will win the Conference USA Women's Soccer Tournament, but now they are the highest seed remaining and looked very impressive in that 4-1 win yesterday to kick off the CUSA Women's Soccer Tournament. Get your tickets now, libertyflames.com/C-U- libertyflames.com and 434-582-SEAT. $10 to each session for adults, $15 for the championship session. Kids 3 through 17, just $5 to go see the Liberty Flames, Lady Flames, in the Conference USA Women's Soccer Tournament. Meanwhile,
Number 2.
we probably need more time to cover this one a little bit later, but Denny Hamlin, the win that was in his grasp for a championship yesterday, and then just slipped out of it as William Byron in the Liberty University car, the Liberty University driver, suffered that cut tire with 2 laps to go. I mean, it's just painful for Denny Hamlin to the point where
I don't know. I really don't have much for emotion right now. Just numb about it because just in shock. That's about it.
You know, it's understandable that Denny Hamlin would feel that way. That's the way it kind of felt watching that race unfold. And, you know, there's a bigger thing about championship weekend in NASCAR and how to review it. And we can maybe get into that with Brian Nolan of frontstretch.com around 5:45, 5:50 today in the back half of covering the Commonwealth. Part 2 is when we'll get to him. But for Denny Hamlin, you know, it just felt that way watching it. This is one of those rare instances where you're sitting there watching the event. And I think the whole weekend for NASCAR was this way. What almost or did happen as far as who did not win dominated as much as who won. Corey Heim won, but it was almost a disaster for NASCAR with the 12-time, 11 before the night, winner did not get to victory lane. Then Saturday, Connor Zilic, who I thought should have been more aggressive, did not win the Xfinity Series championship. And then Denny Hamlin, who had the dominant car yesterday and was one of the best drivers, a caution late. I'm not going to call it a fluke. It was a legit caution. William Byron suffered a legit cut tire. It changed everything. This is not tinfoil hat conspiracy. NASCAR won in Hendrick Motorsports to win guy coming out. Let's pump the brakes on that, pun intended. But, you know, it just stinks for Denny Hamlin for as much effort as he has put in. And again, bigger picture, trostwall.com fast take needs to come on this. But it's a reminder that the storybook ending often is not something you actually get to embrace. Meanwhile,
Number 1.
Virginia. God, it feels like they're getting storybook endings, including the player that they deserved and needed to pay up to keep. As West Coast Superfan Ben noted last week, Lady Luck may have been the most important investment, but the second has clearly evolved into Chandler Morris because of the importance of the quarterback position. But equally with him in terms of actual legit player investments, Cam Robinson. Well, the only question was he going to slide after his game-clinching interception against Cal?
No, I when I saw that he picked it off, I said, he ain't going down. He going to go score. And then I told him afterward, I said, he's like, Coach, I was going to score. I said, look, I'm going to explain to you why in the future, I need you to go down. But man, just happy that he was able to make that play. And it's good complimentary football right there. We went for it on 4th and 2 and came up a little bit short, and playing the odds that the time was against the opponent with no timeouts and just keep them out the end zone, and much less didn't know that we were going to end up with 7 points of our own.
It's great for Virginia. They found a way to win these games. I think some of it is luck and fortune. Some of it's also the fact that they're such an experienced roster. And yes, duplicating that next year is going to be real challenging for Virginia, even with the transformational gifts financially. But for a year where you get a chance to do it, Virginia's this weird school. They have all the bad luck go against them for a period of time. And then it's like the 2019 men's basketball national championship team, or later that year, the men's lacrosse championship team, where all of a sudden, all of the breaks that went against your athletic department come flooding in at once in the other way. It's like Virginia got their Coach Prime on.
And guess what? We keep receipts.
And if you could say, do you believe?
Do you believe that? Huh?
I do, that Lady Luck at least sometimes can play a role in this. It's not going to be that way every year. It's just some schools, 50-50 breaks. You get some, you have some for you, some against you. For Virginia, it's like they all cascade for good or bad over a long period of time. Meanwhile, when we return, more on that. Plus, is there a lot of trepidation in Harrisonburg with the coaching vacancies that have opened in college football and the success of the JMU Dukes, leading to another potential head football coach change at JMU? That's kickoff covering the Commonwealth when we return here in the Fast Lane VTRN Sports app and Fast Lane Ed Lane and VTRN Sports on Facebook Live and YouTube.
It's so worth the drive to big savings at the Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile. Shop local and save more with exceptional service and selection. Your search stops here with over 900 pre-owned vehicles to choose from, plus a huge selection of new car brands in Southwest Virginia. Honda, Hyundai, Toyota, Subaru, Kia, Chevrolet, Mitsubishi, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. 11 new car brands, 900 used vehicles, all in one location. The Sheeler Motor Mile gives you more choices with pre-owned cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs. Many have miles in the teens, remaining factory warranties, and some are even local one-owner vehicles. More than any other dealer in the area, plus exceptional service, selection, savings, and financing options, and top dollar for your trade. Volume selling means volume pricing, and we've got the volume with 11 new car brands and over 900 used vehicles, all in one location. And we're proud to support our local schools and community. The Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile, your premier car dealer, locally and family-owned for over 50 years. I-81 exit 118C in Christiansburg. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com.
Is it time for a new place to call home? Moving out on your own? Perhaps your existing lease is up for renewal. Looking for a new roommate? Or maybe you just need a change of scenery. Then you need to check out brownstoneproperties.com. We have Central Virginia's largest selection of apartments, townhomes, and single-family homes. Applying is easy with our online application. Visit us online to begin your search at brownstoneproperties.com.
In most things, it's hard to go from ordinary to extraordinary. It's easy with your home or business. Call the Concrete Wizard and transform your place into an extraordinary space. If you're tired of looking at unsightly concrete, then bring light to your old surfaces. Call the Concrete Wizard for free design consultations, free estimates, and fast professional concrete resurfacing. And visit theconcretewizard.com for ideas from other before and after photos.
Going once, going twice, gone. This is the last year you can have Terrell E. Mosley install a new qualifying heat pump and get a $2,000 federal tax credit. If your current system is over 10 years old, you should seriously consider updating your system and take advantage of this tax credit. Not to mention, a new, more energy-efficient system will also save you on your electric bill. Call Terrell E. Mosley. It's a free service for them to come and discuss the options available to you. Don't miss out. Call Terrell E. Mosley or visit them at terrellemosley.com.
Hi, I'm Chuck from Aquatrack Adventures in Salem. The Virginia Talk Radio Network and InsaneRadioDeals.com have helped our company grow by sharing our company's message throughout Central and Southside Virginia. The gift cards and experiences sold on InsaneRadioDeals.com have brought us many new customers. If you're a business that wants to grow with a message that resonates and gets results, I highly recommend InsaneRadioDeals.com and the Virginia Talk Radio Network. Simply put, it works.
Good to great. It's one of the hardest transitions to make. 801 Raw Bar has pulled it off. Their country boil bags have taken the good seafood and flavors from the Bayou region and brought them to the Hill City for a great seafood dish. You can also build your own seafood plates at 801 Raw Bar, featuring fresh shrimp, crabs, scallops, and fish from the Atlantic region. Step back into the relaxing beach house vibe with different regional seafood twists at 801 Raw Bar on Church Street in downtown Lynchburg.
Trick or treat.
Happy Halloween. And at InsaneRadioDeals.com and VTRN, we don't have any tricks up our sleeves, but we do have plenty of treats for you. 31% off of list price items for all food items, from 801 Raw Bar to Oliver's on Rivermont, Ballad Brewing to Downtown Cairo, Caribbean Jerk Pot, JD's Cafe, and the Yard on 5th Street. 31% off all food items at InsaneRadioDeals.com now through November 3rd.
Hey gang, this is Bud Foster, former defensive coordinator for the Virginia Tech Hokies. Catch the Fast Lane weekdays 5 to 6 p.m. on VTRN Sports 93.3 FM.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
There's a good and a bad to this soundbite from Bob Chesney, the JMU Dukes head football coach, after that win, dominating as the Dukes were in the second half this past Tuesday, of the 52-20 win against Texas State.
I thought our guys did a really good job. I think this is a high-octane offense that moves the ball really well, and they did a great job of it in the first half. And I thought our guys just bared down a little bit. We're able to stop the run and then just tightened up in coverage a little bit. And then getting some turnovers is really important. And I think the tip ball, and the other one, the X, were big, things that just ultimately stopped their drives and put us in position, to be able to close this game out. So I thought, again, complimentary football all the way around. I thought our kick, we said it before, but punt returner and kick returner were absolutely electric as well. And our guys did a really good job of keeping them in check as well.
So the plus for JMU is they're winning those type of games, and they have really been a great second half team. We saw it against Liberty in September. We've seen it against ODU, probably the most noteworthy second half performance, but even against Texas State as well. That's a positive. You can make good in-game adjustments. You have great connection with your players. You know the tendencies and weaknesses you can identify and make changes. That's the plus. And it should bode well for JMU for the remainder of the regular season. But could there be another concern looming? We get to that right now in
It's time for your teams and topics. Covering the Commonwealth. A look at teams and topics from around the Commonwealth. Let's start with the JMU Dukes.
Shane Metlin covers them for DNRonline.com and the Harrisonburg Daily News Record. He's at Shane_DNR Sports and joins us now in the Fast Lane. Shane, loved catching up with you as we always do. For JMU, as great as they've been, are we outlining a case that maybe other athletic departments are outlining as well for why they need to bring Bob Chesney from Harrisonburg to insert your now more than ever vacant coaching position at a Power 5 football program level?
Yeah, I mean, I think, that's definitely going to be something that kind of looms over the rest of the season, and the start of the off season is all these jobs opening up, and, you're just not going to be able to compete salary wise with a lot of programs if you're JMU. But yeah, I think you just want to kind of try to potentially finish the year strong, finish it as a team that could maybe make the college football playoff, and go from there, and just hope you can continue to build what your program's done over the past few years.
So you referenced all of that for JMU. First of all, in the here and now, how much are you of the belief that the Dukes can keep it focused on the train tracks at least through the next month of the season to where they can maximize their potential to win a Sun Belt Conference championship starting noon Saturday in Huntington, West Virginia against Marshall?
That's always going to be the question. And I think, getting a group of college guys to stay focused all the time can be a challenge regardless of, the situations. But that's always going to be something that kind of hangs over it. But I think it's a little bit different maybe in the modern era where it's not just coaches. It's also like players got to pay attention to where they might be going next, things like that. So, I think it's all just out in the open a little bit more. I think there was always... In the past, it would have been maybe a little bit more offensive if you were a player or something to think that your coach might be leaving. I think it's just all business now, and maybe people are a little bit more used to that being the reality of the situation.
You got a great point about that, where players are often eyeing their next destinations as much as coaches, and all these people have agents and representatives who are getting them into a spot where they can consider what awaits. And it really is just the reality of almost everybody in this day and age. Meanwhile, they get ready, JMU does, to take on a Marshall team that looked like they had some momentum going with the ODU win in particular. Then they backed it up with an overtime victory against Texas State. But then Marshall goes down to Coastal Carolina the day before Halloween and gets a spooky result, giving up 44 points. How much of this for JMU is the fact that they might yield some to Marshall, but this JMU offense should really be able to cook in Huntington? All right. Well, do we have Jerry Ratcliffe yet? Have we called him and got him on? All right. Well, since we've had some technical issues, we'll get to that later with Shane Metlin of DNRonline.com.
Now to UVA.
With JerryRatcliffe.com, founder and contributor, Jerry Ratcliffe. Hootie, great to be speaking with you. The Virginia Cavaliers, they did it once again, the Cardiac Cavs. How much of this is luck? How much of it is a skill set to continue to be winning these close games as they did 31-21, but really it was a 24-21 performance until the late Cam Robinson pick six?
Well, I think there's a certain degree of luck involved, but I think a lot of it is skill and some of the experience that Virginia has brought into the program this year with guys who've played a lot of football, some at really big-time programs, and have seen it all. So, some of these guys are rising to the occasion at the most critical moments, and I think a lot of that comes from experience. But certainly Cam Robinson is making a good argument to become ACC Defensive Player of the Year after his second pick six of the year, and being just kind of solidifying that win out in Berkeley.
Yeah, he's fantastic for the Virginia Cavaliers. Could you make the argument that he's the most important offseason expenditure for Virginia football in terms of players? Or do you have to still put that number two behind Chandler Morris, just given the importance of that position and, frankly, how Virginia was lost without good quarterback play under the previous 3 seasons of Tony Elliott?
Yeah, that's a tough decision to make right there, but certainly he gives everything that he needs, that Virginia needs on the defensive side, and Chandler has been impeccable on the offensive side, that's for sure. And they wouldn't be here. They wouldn't be here without Chandler Morris. The way he's played, they haven't had quarterback play like that since Bryce Perkins, and they're certainly different types of quarterbacks. But I would say Chandler would probably win out in that conversation, but not by a whole lot, because Cam has been a difference maker on the other side of the ball.
No doubt he has. He has been the premier defensive player. He had crucial interceptions against Louisville. He had another one against Cal. Cam Robinson has definitely been that guy for the Virginia Cavaliers, much like our guy for insight for the Virginia Cavaliers is Jerry Ratcliffe, who joins us in the fast lane today. Hootie, pivoting off of football for just a moment to men's basketball. They begin their season against Rider tonight. Our very own TJ Wilkerson will be up there covering it for VTRN Sports and the Virginia Talk Radio Network, and we'll have his thoughts and observations tomorrow. But for Virginia, they led wire to wire in their exhibition win against Villanova. How much of a test do you believe Rider will make, if nothing more than seeing how well this team has gelled with what is essentially an entirely flipped roster minus Elijah Gertrude?
Well, I think this is probably another one of the rent victims that Virginia will play early on this season. And I don't expect it to be a close game, but you never know at this time of the year or early in the season. But, the way Virginia played against Vanderbilt on the road and then Villanova here, I don't think Rider is in that league, so to speak. And I think Virginia should win fairly handedly, but it'll be a continuation of the experiments about, what combinations work best together, and they'll continue to work on the press and try to get that down. They've still got a ways to go with that, and rebounding is another thing that they've stressed. So I think we'll just see more development continuing and some experimentation, trying to find out what works best against live opponents.
if you had to give your top 3 things that you're looking forward to seeing, it may not always be good results early, but the 3 things you're most interested in seeing tonight for UVA men's basketball against Rider, what are they and why?
Well, one, I think inside defense, they've shored it up a little bit since the opening exhibition. It needs to get a little tighter, and I imagine it will, because I'm sure they're much bigger than Rider. So they need to continue to improve the rim protection. I'm anxious to see what guard is going to step up other than Malik Thomas, who has been their leading scorer in both exhibitions. And, you got to find somebody else. So when other teams try to shut him down, who's going to pick up the slack? They've recruited a bunch of guys who can score. We need to see some more evidence of that now that the season has started. And I think a little bit, too, is just to see how far the pressing tactics have developed. They improved greatly between exhibitions, but they need to improve that a little bit and try to force more turnovers and get that phase of the defense going, because that generates a lot of offense for a day of Ryan Odom's basketball style.
Jerry Ratcliffe with us in the Fast Lane. Hootie, great to chat some UVA football, and for many Virginia fans, glad to have it back, men's basketball. We appreciate your time today in the Fast Lane.
Great to be with you, Ed. We'll see you soon.
Now to the Virginia Tech Hokies.
With Chris Coleman of TechSideline.com, joining us now here in the Fast Lane. Chris, great to be speaking with you. First of all, programming note, great way to welcome you in. Short show tomorrow, women's basketball for Virginia Tech will take over at 5:30 p.m., 6 o'clock tip for their season opener. Tonight, the men's basketball team gets underway, 6:30 p.m. airtime, 7 o'clock tip against Charleston Southern. Did you ever think you'd get to a point where, in terms of looking forward to games to watch in Blacksburg, you were going, wow, thank God basketball season's finally here?
It's been that way a few times recently, to be honest with you. But yeah, this is definitely one of those years. It's a crazy times right now because we've still got football season to cover, and now we've got basketball season to cover, and now a coaching search on top of all of that. So busy times, but it's better to be busy than the alternative.
We are going to keep people waiting when it comes to the coaching search update. How in line are you that Virginia Tech men's basketball and women's basketball, knowing that this roster and how it gels is going to change drastically over the next couple of weeks and months, is the expectation that these are both teams that should be in serious consideration too, and probably you want to have a better than 50% chance of believing that they will make their respective NCAA tournaments?
Yeah, I mean, I think by the end of the year, you've got to be there or thereabouts. You've got to be in that position in the last weekend where you feel like you at least have a chance, and hopefully things go your way. I know that both coaches would be disappointed, I think, if they didn't make it this year. So, that does seem to be the expectation of the fan base, and I'd go along with that. But it's also one of those things you've got to wait and see. The injury situation, and it's so hard to predict games these days. So like Virginia Tech men's team is like picked 11th in the ACC, but you've also got some major national prognosticators picking them to go to the NCAA tournament, right? So Virginia Tech was bad last year. They returned more scoring production than every program in the ACC, but they only returned 4 players, which just shows you how much turnover there was across the ACC last year. And you throw in the fact that there's a bunch of new coaches around the league this year too, and I just don't think anybody knows what to expect. It's like you're just closing your eyes and you're kind of playing pin the tail on the donkey.
Yeah, that's a great way to describe it. The best part is we can continue to preview realistic expectations as we get deeper into non-conference play and towards the start of ACC action at the end of the calendar year. Chris Coleman, TechSideline.com, with us in the Fast Lane. Chris, football. Did Saturday's outcome, as it was unfolding against Louisville, cement the idea that this team is playing really hard, but as far as real interest within the program, your CC on Sunday article at TechSideline.com summed it up best, which is, I don't know if there's a whole lot more you can say about this team that doesn't overshadow the fact that the attention is more focused on the coaching search.
Yeah, I mean, I think 9 games into the season, there's not really any secrets anymore about any team. And Virginia Tech fans know exactly what they've got this year, and that they know the remaining schedule and how difficult it is. And that there's so much smoke heating up around the coaching search right now that obviously, I think more people are interested in that. Like, I think more people would be like, yeah, you know what, just fast forward and let me know who my coach is going to be. I'm more interested in that than anything else. That's kind of how I feel. Not that I'm not watching the football games with interest. I certainly am, and I'm still writing about them and things like that. But, 3 or 4 years down the line, you're not going to be thinking about the small details of the 2025 Virginia Tech Louisville game. What you're going to be remembering is this whole process and who you ended up hiring as head coach and how he's faring at that point.
You mentioned that part in terms of the evaluation of the coaching staff candidates and where this search is going to go. The ball in James Franklin's court. You wrote about it. Andy Bitter wrote about it in your bigger picture overviews following the Louisville game, as you wrote at techsideline.com, Chris. My long position has been this is all posturing, and not to say that Franklin may not wind up at Virginia Tech, but how this is unfolding is posturing by his agent, Jimmy Sexton, to play a larger board of what's going on in college football coaching chess, if you will. How real is my cynicism on that?
I've heard enough details about the coaching search that makes me certain that the interest is legit from both parties. I definitely believe he's their number one target, and I've got reason to believe that he's extremely interested in the job. But at the same time, it would be unprecedented to see a coach take a job this early. And it definitely behooves Jimmy Sexton to hold out for as much as possible, and because he's not just thinking about James Franklin here, right? He's thinking about all his other clients, like whoever his first coach is to come off the board. That kind of sets the market for everybody else, right? So if it did happen to be James Franklin to Virginia Tech, it would be, okay, how much is James Franklin making? So what does that mean? What does that mean for Auburn? How much are they paying their next coach, right? And things like that. So Jimmy Sexton isn't looking at it necessarily as just a James Franklin thing. He's thinking, okay, how can I best position this to get all my clients a good deal and things like that. He's really the kingmaker in college football these days.
Well, he definitely is. Our kingmaker of tech analysis is Chris Coleman of TechSideline.com. Of course, we also say the same thing about Andy Bitter and Will Stewart. Sorry, gotta keep it real with you, Chris, and get our usher on once more and confess on that. The other parts of this, though, let's just say this is a bigger picture chess game as far as James Franklin to Virginia Tech, and maybe Franklin's interest in Tech is there, but he's got his eye on something else that opens up, or that's more likely to materialize. How much of this process is also Jimmy Sexton realizing that, okay, Virginia Tech may be offering Franklin, I'm just going to ballpark it and say they'll offer him $9 million a year as a head coach. And while, $9 million a year wasn't enough for Franklin, and Bob Chesney wouldn't be a $9 million a year candidate, all of a sudden, there's more resources there so that the next candidate to go to Virginia Tech might have more resources to play with because Sexton thought this thing through from a bigger distance.
Yeah, I mean, he wouldn't have made it to the point he is right now if he wasn't very, very successful. All I can say is that so far I've heard Virginia Tech has met every single demand during the negotiations. So if he doesn't say yes to Virginia Tech, then it's not going to be for Virginia Tech's lack of effort or that they weren't giving him what he asked for. I don't think he's going to get an Auburn job offer. Auburn is the second biggest program in their own state, so they need somebody that can beat Alabama. And if I'm an Auburn fan, I'd be like, well, he couldn't beat Michigan or Ohio State when he was at Penn State, so how's he going to come to Auburn and beat Alabama, right? So I don't think he's going to get the Auburn offer. Florida State, it just remains to be seen if they actually have the money to fire their coach. It doesn't seem like they do. Otherwise, I think they would have done it after they lost 9 ACC games in a row. So it's been a chaotic year. I don't know that many more jobs are actually going to come open right now, because who wants to enter this market unless you absolutely had to? Like I don't think South Carolina is going to enter the market this year, because then they're competing on the market against Florida and LSU and Auburn, right? And South Carolina is going to probably finish fourth amongst all four of those teams. So I think things have happened earlier this year, and there will be more job openings. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think it will be quite as chaotic throughout the rest of the month as it has been so far. That's just my gut feel.
Chaos and all that it entails. It obviously means there's going to be a lot more of a waiting game for Virginia Tech. You don't have to wait to get good analysis. You can visit techsideline.com. You can do something we haven't done yet, which is go ahead and listen to the TSL podcast. Although we'd recommend waiting until tomorrow anyway, because there's Hokie women's basketball tomorrow. There's Virginia Tech men's basketball at 6:30 p.m. tonight on the VTRN Sports app. Ladies, 5:30 p.m. tomorrow on the VTRN Sports app as well. Chris, thank you for your time today in the Fast Lane. It's great to catch up with you. We look forward to more of your insight, and I'm sure we'll be discussing different angles of this search over the next month.
Hey, thanks, Ed. Appreciate you, bud.
Indeed, our pleasure. Chris Coleman with us here in the Fast Lane. When we return, NASCAR, numb. Those were the words of Denny Hamlin. Is that the obvious response? Well, the man who coined the phrase, the obvious tweet of the day, will join us next here in the Fast Lane. Plus, the Washington Commanders, from bad to worse, Seawall uncovers that and unpacks all that next here in the Fast Lane.
It's so worth the drive to big savings at the Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile. Shop local and save more with exceptional service and selection. Your search stops here with over 900 pre-owned vehicles to choose from, plus a huge selection of new car brands in Southwest Virginia. Honda, Hyundai, Toyota, Subaru, Kia, Chevrolet, Mitsubishi, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. 11 new car brands, 900 used vehicles, all in one location. The Sheeler Motor Mile gives you more choices with pre-owned cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs. Many have miles in the teens, remaining factory warranties, and some are even local one-owner vehicles. More than any other dealer in the area, plus exceptional service, selection, savings, and financing options, and top dollar for your trade. Volume selling means volume pricing, and we've got the volume with 11 new car brands and over 900 used vehicles, all in one location. And we're proud to support our local schools and community. The Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile, your premier car dealer, locally and family-owned for over 50 years. I-81 exit 118C in Christiansburg. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com.
Plenty of large insurance companies know something. If you're injured in an auto accident, it can feel overwhelming. They've defended themselves in thousands of personal injury cases while you've never been there. Thankfully, I have. Hi, I'm Dustin Rosser with Trost Law. I began my legal career defending insurance companies before joining Trost Law. I know how insurance companies think and how to navigate the complex legal system. So if you're injured and need someone to fight for you, just call me at 777-HURT and visit trostlaw.com.
For over a century, AM radio has evolved to meet the needs of our community. More than 80 million listeners depend on AM radio each month. It's also the backbone of the emergency alert system, keeping us safe in dangerous times. A new bill in Congress would ensure this free, reliable service remains in cars. Text AM to 52886 and tell Congress to support the AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to stop.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
Denny Hamlin suffered heartbreak. Kyle Larson was in the right place at the right time. The Liberty University car had potential, but just couldn't quite get it done when the tire blew with 2 laps to go. Do those qualify for?
I know that's obviously common sense. Thank you, Magic Johnson tweet right there.
Magic Johnson tweets. Yes, the man who originated that phrase on the Front Stretch Happy Hour podcast last week joins us now in part 2 of
It's time for your teams and topics. Covering the Commonwealth. A look at teams and topics from around the Commonwealth. Let's start with NASCAR.
Brian Timothy Dale Nolan Jr. III, LLP. With us in the Fast Lane.
That was perfect. Great job, Ed.
Brian, indeed it was. Heartbreak for Denny Hamlin. That was a devastating loss for him yesterday. Does that qualify for?
I know that's obviously common sense. Thank you, Magic Johnson tweet right there.
Common sense. Magic Johnson tweet right there. But is it legitimate? The feeling of Denny Hamlin that this is going to be the most heart-wrenching performance of his NASCAR career.
1,000%. He will remember that caution flag and the end of that race for the rest of his life until the day he passes away. Not just his NASCAR career, his entire life. This was a guy that's been trying for 20 years, Ed, to win a championship. He wanted 2 goals to win 60 races and a championship, and he got the 60th win in Vegas about 3-4 weeks ago. And so he had 2 weeks to study and prep, and then he came to Phoenix, was fast in practice, started on the pole, led 208 laps of the 312, was pulling away from William Byron and Ryan Blaney, and then Byron blows a tire with 3 laps to go, 40 seconds away, and all you know what broke loose. And Kyle Larson and Cliff Daniels took 2 tires. Chris Gale and Denny Hamlin took 4. Brad Keselowski stayed out and almost won the darn race. And once again, Denny Hamlin, he couldn't get it done. And the look on his face afterwards was, if I can't get it done now, I don't think I ever will. And now I'm putting words in his mouth right there, but that's what it looked like from my point of view. It was a real sad scene. It was, the shock and awe of the 11 crew when the caution came out, to the restart, to the checkered flag. It was just, it was very, very, very heartbreaking for him.
Everyone has seemingly known now for the last couple of weeks that there are going to be changes in some form to how NASCAR decides its champion. But how much of this weekend collectively was the nail in the coffin from Friday almost not winning it, Corey Heim, despite what is clearly the best Truck Series season maybe of all time. Connor Zilisch, maybe the best Xfinity Series season of all time. He doesn't win it. I still argue that he should have gotten more aggressive with his friend Jesse Love, but he'll have time over his career to figure that out. And then yesterday, it's also what didn't happen, which is the dominant driver of the day. Now, Larson's a worthy champion. He finished the regular season point championship, and he had a great year. But the fact that every story from every race has been what didn't happen and who did not win the championship as opposed to who actually did.
I feel like change was inevitable, Ed, for the playoff format, but I think this just solidified it. You had a guy that won 10 races this year in the Xfinity Series, and he did not win the title. That it just does not make sense. Now, Jesse Love did not win in Daytona back in February, and he's a champion. This is no disrespect to Jesse at all, but I don't think he's a deserving champion. Corey Heim almost lost it too, but he had to go 7 wide in order to win the truck race. And thankfully he did, because it was probably the best Truck Series season of all time. And then for Hamlin, I'm not faulting Larson at all. He was fantastic. But the thing is that he didn't win since May. He has not won a race since May, since before the summertime. With that being said, I just feel like this was a bad weekend for NASCAR in terms of the rightful champion. And unfortunately, the rightful champion just for 2 out of 3, in my opinion, was not crowned champion at the end of the weekend.
Yeah, it stings in that sense for NASCAR, and it stings for those teams. Everyone's going to remember this as kind of the last hurrah for its old championship format and what could have been. You talk about who wins the championships. How much do you feel, though, for Corey Heim justifiably won and got it, but nobody's really talking about Jesse Love as great of a year as he had, because Zilisch was better and Allgaier was better, and neither of them won the championship. And then Larson, again, you mentioned not winning since May, but would have won the regular season points format or won the points if you use the old format. But the fact that he didn't win, and it's more about what didn't happen than what did.
Yeah, I feel terrible for both of them. Jesse Love doesn't deserve any of this criticism, and he's probably getting it. And the awful part, Ed, is Jesse Love and Connor Zilisch are roommates. So how do you think that conversation is going to go when they get back from Arizona? I don't think so well. I feel bad for Jesse, and it kind of says a lot when Larson was like, I feel totally bad for Hamlin. When I was counting down the final laps, I was getting excited to go over and congratulate him because I know he's one of my good friends. And William Byron, he entered the press conference after the race ended, looked at Hamlin and said, I'm sorry. And when asked by Zach Sternillo, NASCAR.com, why he said sorry, it's because he caused the caution. And obviously he didn't mean to. I mean, it was just a tire that blew from his car. He didn't want to be the reason that Denny didn't win the championship. And so you could see and to top it all off, Byron is Larson's teammate, and Larson won the championship. So it was just a really, really just a down presser. And then Denny Hamlin obviously was still in shock. He probably still is. I mean, usually his podcast comes out by now and it's still not out. So he's probably still trying to gasp the reality of what just happened about 20 hours ago.
Yeah, it's a scary thing. It's an unfortunate thing if you're Denny Hamlin. Those are kind of the things you feel in terms of just the raw emotion. Last one for Brian Nolan of frontstretch.com here in the fast lane. Now we turn our attention back to NASCAR. Is this going to loom over the entire offseason?
I think it'll loom over until the trial starts. There was rumors and reports that they were close to a settlement leading up to the state of the sport. That turned out to be not true. Denny Hamlin said that wasn't even close. And so we're just waiting. We're just twiddling our thumbs. And sure, there could be a settlement. There could be a settlement during the first or second day of the trial. But we're under a month till this all is going to get revealed. It's going to get contentious. It already has, but it's going to get more contentious. And I was thinking about this, Ed, when I was flying home last night. I feel like Denny Hamlin wants to win this court case even more now because of everything that happened this past weekend. Now I could just be putting words in his mouth, and I don't mean to do that, but I do feel like he wants to win this so bad because NBC Sports' Del Jarrett was like, Denny Hamlin is so just driven to be the best at everything, whether it's on the golf course, whether it's just anything. He wants to win. And so I think he's going to be even more motivated. So I don't think we're going to hold this over the entire offseason, but come December, we will.
Yes, that's where we'll find out more. In the meantime, we're waiting for that. You don't have to wait for great insight. Just visit frontstretch.com and be Brian Nolan on Twitter and Instagram. Brian, great to speak with you. Great to put a bow on our NASCAR season coverage with you. And congratulations to you, Steven Stumpf, and your crew for all the great work throughout the season, and in particular down at Championship Weekend in Phoenix.
I appreciate you, Ed. We appreciate all the support we get every single Monday and Thursday, Monday and Thursday on your show. And even though that you have to deal with Trey, we're really thankful for you. So thank you for everything that you do for us. And we can't wait to see you and talk with you guys back in February to preview the Daytona 500.
It warms the heart knowing that's how you feel. Meanwhile,
and last but not least, or maybe least,
on W227 BG Timberlake, WVGM AM Lynchburg, WMNA Gretna, Danville Southside, and of course the VTRN Sports app. Well,
just for you haters, left hand up the Commanders.
The haters might be the people that stuck around over in Landover, Maryland last night. From bad to worse, down 38-7 in the middle of the fourth quarter, Jaden Daniels suffered the dislocated left elbow. Still waiting word on what his status for the remainder of the season will be. Candy Waller, we don't need to wait for her status. It's easy to find it. Madam President of Bowie TV Sports, as they continue to roll in success. First of all, congratulations, Madam President, to you and your colleagues on your recent recognitions and accomplishments. Second of all, for the Washington Commanders, bad to worse last night. Is that the most effective way to summarize what happened in that 38-7 loss with Jaden Daniels suffering his dislocated left elbow?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things that I have been sharing, all week and, really in just anticipation for the season is that this was a game that even if the Washington Commanders did everything right, they could still lose. And they did a lot wrong. And we all saw the result. I think, as to your point, the injury toll just really made it even worse, but absolutely from bad to worse last night.
There's Deebo Samuel. There was Terry McLaurin, who was out for that game against Seattle. There's Marshawn Lattimore, who's now out for the year with an ACL injury after tearing it. That came out earlier today. Because of all of that, and the fact that this Commanders team is looking up just to try to make the playoffs, much less the distant idea of winning the division, Is that all the more reason Washington should slow play things with Jayden Daniels to make sure he is fully healthy, even if it means missing a large chunk or the remainder of the season?
I absolutely think so. I mean, Jayden has been injured in the last 3 games. It's been something each game, the last 3. And so they have to be careful. And, I mean, there's 9 weeks in going into 10 weeks, and it's just, and it's not about them giving up because they're clearly not, right? But you do have to be safe rather than sorry because there was a decision made last night, and then we saw the result, right? And Jayden getting injured. So it has to be a place where you can, recognize and be upset about defeat, but not engaging in desperate measures that have very, very high risk, more so than reward to it. So I think this was a really tough lesson, specifically for head coach Dan Quinn, and still making that decision for Jayden to go ahead and play.
Yeah, I mean, that's where you are with the Washington Commanders now and figuring this thing out. Without Jayden Daniels, how much more daunting is it for Washington just to even get victories right now, given this team seems to have a lot more deficiencies with that and other injuries, plus maybe the misevaluation from coaching staff and player personnel too?
I mean, it's huge because the injuries aren't stopping, right? And areas where there were already issues. I mean, they were already depleted at wide receiver, and now Luke McCaffrey is out. They were already depleted in the secondary. Now Marshawn Lattimore is out for the season. And going back to Luke, they're still uncertain about his timetable, but he will be out for a period of time. So areas where they already had issues, now you're down even more. And so this will be difficult and, of course, not at all up to the standard of the Washington Commanders that they set, nor is it at all even close to what they had anticipated for this season.
It's a painful reality for the Washington Commanders. We'll wrap it up on this one, Seawall. What's the vibe in terms of this locker room? Do you worry about this snowballing when you factor in the schedule's more difficult and the fact that this team is shorthanded personnel-wise?
Yeah, I definitely worry about it snowballing with the issues with injuries. Right now, I can know a little bit more come Wednesday, and throughout the week. But I can tell you last night, that was a heartbroken locker room. They were heartbroken. It's bizarre because I've seen them go through so many, just the highs of the highs and definitely the lows and the lows. But their focus last night, even, beyond the loss and, acknowledging that it was embarrassing and they got their what kicked. They were really concerned about Jayden and just their teammates that were injured. And so they were all focused there. So we'll see how they are later on in the week. But this is definitely not good at all.
No, it's not. Meanwhile, the insight, it is good. Seawall SE, Twitter. CEO Seawall, Instagram, and Bowie TV Sports on all those platforms as Madam President. Candy Waller of Bowie TV Sports with us in the fast lane. Seawall, thank you for your time. We always love catching up, and we're appreciative of and thankful for the chance to speak today.
Yeah, thank you all so much for always having me. And, maybe at some point there'll be better news to share, but I look forward to talking to you guys again soon.
We do. No shortage of storylines to discuss with our very own Commanders insider, Candy Waller. In the meantime, that does it for us today. Little briefly for Harry and Coleman in progress. And then after this, 6:30 p.m., Charleston Southern, Virginia Tech men's basketball to kick off. Yes, it's here. Crossover season and basketball season.
And Washington was down big, 38-7. Scrambled, was tackled at the Seattle 4-yard line. His elbow bent.